Way back in 2019, my son Rory and I made a spur-of-the-moment decision to make a film about the catastrophic fish deaths that occurred on the Baarka Darling River in western New South Wales. Rory is a filmmaker cinematographer and I am an anthropologist. So between us we had the skills to research and produce a film that came to be called When the River Runs Dry. It won awards in the US. It was virtually ignored in Australia. I won't go into the content now, except to say that it was a sorry story of corporate greed, environmental destruction, and the capture of political processes by powerful forces. It was also a story in which money won out over the trillions of lives that make up a vast river system. Among the losers, the human, Kamilaroi and Baarka traditional owners of that river. When the River Runs Dry was a cry of pain and anger, but it was not enough. We still wanted to articulate a crucial point, that a river, certainly this river, is not what people think it is. This river is many things. It is a living being, a manifestation of the dreaming. It is a pulsing vein of vibrant life in a harsh, baked landscape. The Baarka does not run according to the rules of engineers or irrigators, though it has been racked and depleted by their quest for control for many decades now. When the rains fall in central Queensland, no one, not even the most determined engineer, can halt the flood that will course down those ancient channels and spread across the flat land. So the rains fell and the flood came, and Rory and I excused ourselves from Christmas festivities and drove 1,000 kilometres north to meet the waters. Along the way, an idea formed for a new project to be called The Good Flood, to show that a misbehaving river is truly a wonderful thing. We spent several days out in remote parts, in intense heat, with often tropical strength humidity and certainly tropical strength mosquitoes. Actually, I've lived in Arnhem Land and I have never experienced mozzies like those. Repellent worked a bit, but despite the heat, we had to be covered head to foot, and still they bit us through our clothes. As darkness fell at the end of the day, we had no choice but to retreat to our mozzie domes and sweat in breathless heat until sleep caught up with us. At dawn, an army of hungry insects lurked, drawn to the scent of our blood-filled bodies, awaiting the inevitable moment when we would have to arise and get on with the day. Those people who struggle to protect the wonders of nature are increasingly comfortable with the idea of rivers or mountains or forests as living entities, if only for the purposes of legal protection. Ask an Indigenous person, and they will more than likely tell you that a river is a sentient, conscious being. A trillion living things in resonant communication certainly amount to vastly more than the sum of the parts. I sat by that swollen river, swatting mosquitoes, and I felt that I was enveloped in a great being. The land is incredibly flat, and though you might seem to be a long way from the flood, in reality you may be mere centimetres above water level, a level that was rising 30 centimetres a day, and would ultimately rise, who knows, another 3 or 4 metres. At the edge is the merest trickle as the water runs into deep cracks in the silty black soil. One morning I woke to find that the flood had crept beneath me as I slept, and my little mozzie dome was now a reluctant and inelegant raft. The nylon material floated up around my bedroll, so I stayed remarkably dry, but on emerging I not only had to deal with a distracting onslaught of mozzies, but the now calf-deep, unctuous grey mud that pulled an untied boot from my foot and smeared itself over everything. We took a canoe with us and paddled out onto the floodplain, which lay under anything from a few centimetres to several metres of water. The plain was dominated by river red gums, and these and the other floodplain species are simply magnificent, ancient grandmother trees, gnarled and contorted by the centuries. Rory held the camera, I controlled the boat, and so we moved silently, gently through a magical flooded forest, moving in wonder from tree to tree, drinking in this visual feast, and stopping to touch rough bark or smooth, and delighting in the curtains of tinkling leaves we brushed through here and there. Now let me remind you, it was hot. It was so hot that the sun shining on the rubber of my shoes was burning the tops of my feet. There was not a breath of wind save what we generated with our own movement. Sweat trickled off our bodies and carried sunscreen and stinging repellent into our eyes. And there was the constant mosquitoes, biting our hands, landing on legs, arms, faces, biting us through our shirts. What I'm getting at here is that it should have been hellish, but it was not. It was indescribably beautiful. And through it all, beyond the hardship and the beauty, I was aware of something that felt a lot like joy, coming from the trees. Those trees, all of them hundreds of years old, some of them thousands, with blossoms abuzz with native bees and all manner of waspy creatures, were bursting with an exuberant joy that cut through and negated all else. It was as though we were little children, walking almost unnoticed through a great cathedral, amidst a congregation in full, glorious, joyous voice.